Ready to roll? Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. At this time, I would like to call to order the regularly scheduled meeting of the Meridian Planning and Zoning Commission on January 4th, 2018. Let's begin with roll call.
Thank you. Commissioner Perot?
Here.
Commissioner Yearsley?
Here.
Commissioner McCarville?
Here.
Commissioner Holland?
Here.
And Commissioners Wilson, Fitzgerald, and Casanelli are absent.
Okay, the first item on the agenda is the adoption of the agenda. We have several changes. Item A, Summertown, H-2017-0142 has asked to be continued, as well as item E, Turf Farm, H-2017-0149, the Turf Farm subdivision. Those two items have asked to be continued, and they will be opened only for the purpose of continuing them. So if there's anybody here tonight to testify on those particular applications, we will not be taking testimony today. And then we do have two additions to the agenda. Mr. Parsons would like to present modifications to the accessory use permits checklist, and we will have election of officers for 2018. Could I get a motion to adopt the agenda as amended?
So moved.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to adopt the agenda as amended. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda, and we have two items on the consent agenda. We have approval of minutes for December 21st, 2017, and item B, findings and fact and conclusions of law for approval for track utilities expansion. All those, could I get a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
Madam Chair, I make a motion to adopt the consent agenda.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to adopt the consent agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. At this time, I'll briefly explain the public hearing process for this evening. We'll open each item individually and then start with the staff report. The staff will report their findings regarding how the item adheres to our comprehensive plan and uniform development code with the staff's recommendations. After the staff has made their presentation, the applicant will come forward to present their case for approval of their application and respond to any staff comments. The applicant will have 15 minutes to do so. After the applicant has finished, we will open with public testimony, open to public testimony. There is a sign-up sheet in the back as you entered for anyone wishing to testify. Any person testifying will come forward and be allowed 3 minutes, and there is a timer on the screen at the podium so you can keep track of your time. If they are speaking for a larger group like an HOA and there is a show of hands to represent that group, they will be given up to 10 minutes. After all testimony has been heard, the applicant will be given another 10 minutes to have the opportunity to come back and respond if they desire. After that, we will close the public hearing, and the commissioners will have the opportunity to discuss and hopefully be able to make a recommendation to City Council. So at this time, I'd like to open and actually continue the public hearing for item H-2017-0142 for Summertown subdivision. They have requested a continuance to January 18th, 2018 in order to provide additional information to staff.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Yearsley.
I make a motion. Oh,
Let's open it and
Oh.
discuss it. This is the third continuance on
okay.
this. So if the applicant, let's go ahead and open it. Go ahead and do the
Oh,
motion
I
to
don't
open
know.
it.
I don't need a motion.
You don't need it to open, okay.
Right. I thought we were just going to continue. My apologies.
Yeah, at this time, is the applicant here? Interesting, okay. I would recommend, since they were on our agenda December 1st, December 21st, and now January 2nd, and they have asked for January 18th. Does staff feel that the 18th is adequate, or do we want to push that farther out?
Madam Chair, members of the commission, as you mentioned, this is the third continuance. Staff is still waiting on additional items in order to complete their staff report and provide a recommendation to you. At this time, staff doesn't feel that we will get that information in enough time to generate a staff report for you for the next hearing date. So it would be our recommendation that we either bump them out a month, either to the first hearing in February, which is February 1st, or February 15th. It's also within your purview, since this is the third continuance, to have the applicant pay renoticing fees and get a news public hearing sign up. We have multiple neighbors here in the audience that keep asking me questions before the hearing as to why this project isn't moving forward. And I think it is prudent that we require them renotice this project, have them come back on February 15th. We'll renotice it in the paper, get the clerk what they need, and hopefully by that date in February, we'll have the information in order to provide a staff report and a recommendation to this commission.
I agree. So with that being said,
Madam Chair,
let's
I agree. If we've got people in the audience that have been coming for the last 3 times, it's not fair to them to have to do that and just be getting turned around. So I agree with staff's recommendations to go to February 15th and have them renotice. And the caveat that after the 15th, we may even consider denial based on lack of progress, just because of the things that we're seeing. So that would be my recommendation.
Okay. So could I get a motion to continue the public hearing for H-2017-0142 Summertown subdivision to February 15th and require that the applicant renotice and follow all renoticing protocol?
Madam Chair, I move we recommend, or I make a motion to continue file number H-2017-0142 to the hearing date of February 15th and require the applicant to renotice and re-sign and pay for the additional fees associated with that.
I make a second motion.
It has been moved and seconded to continue item H-2017-0142 to February 15th. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. And the other item requested continuance tonight is H-2017-0149, Turf Farm subdivision, requesting continuance to January 18th in order to work with staff on changes to the plan. Could I get a motion to continue that?
Madam Chair, I make a motion to continue the public hearing for Turf Farm subdivision H-2017-0149 to January 18th, 2018.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to continue H-2017-0149. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, finally, at this time, we'd like to open H-2017-0155, Escape Room, and we'll begin with the staff report.
Madam Chair, the first item before you tonight is a request for a conditional use permit. This site is located at 2959 South Meridian Road within the Strata Bellissima Development Zone LO. Adjacent land use and zoning to the north are office uses zoned LO. To the west are single-family residential homes in the Strata Bellissima subdivision zoned R4. To the south are more offices zoned LO, and to the east is South Meridian Road, State Highway 69, and a nursery zone CG. The comprehensive plan future land use map designation for this property is office. The applicant requests approval of a conditional use permit to operate an indoor recreation facility in a 4,467 square foot tenant space in an existing building in the LO zoning district. The purpose of the facility will be for team building and corporate exercises for the purpose of teaching people to work together. It will also be open to the general public as well. The proposed hours of operation are Monday through Wednesday, 1 p.m. to 9 p.m., but by appointment only. Thursday through Saturday from 1 p.m. to 10 p.m. and closed on Sundays. The LO zoning district restricts hours of operation from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. Access is provided to the site via driveway from local streets to the north, West Maestro Street, and to the south, West Galvani Drive. Direct access via South Meridian Road is prohibited. Parking is shared between all of the tenants in this development and does meet UDC standards. Street buffer and parking lot landscaping exists on the site in accord with UDC standards. No written testimony was received on this application, and staff is recommending approval with the conditions in Exhibit B of the staff report. Staff will stand for any questions.
Any questions for staff?
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Yearsley?
Sonia, do you know if the other buildings on either side are occupied at this time?
Commissioner Yearsley, I am not certain.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. Would the applicant like to come forward? Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Casey Richmond. My address is 1272 West Deercrest Drive in Meridian.
Okay. Do you have any presentation for us, or are you just here for questions?
Just here for questions, ma'am.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant?
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Yearsley?
Kind of find this, what you're proposing is kind of unique, and just a couple of quick questions. What size of groups are you looking? Are you looking, not understanding what you're proposing, but you're looking at bringing in teammates for group building. What size of groups are you planning to have?
There could be two different sizes of groups. One, if a company comes in, we're looking at, because we're going to have 3 escape rooms. Each one will be bigger, and they've got a couple of smaller ones. We're looking at anywhere between 20 and 25 participants between all 3 of our escape rooms for team building. And then, of course, with it being open to the public, each room will be separate, and people can sign up for whichever escape room they want. And so the biggest room being anywhere between 10 and 12 people. And they can, a couple people can sign up, and then we'll leave it open to add 2 more people. So basically, strangers could be working with strangers. Okay. Trying to figure this all out.
Now, are you looking to plan having all escape rooms running at the same time? Because that's a lot of people to be trying to park at this facility, and my concern is it spilling over into the other spaces is my concern.
Most of the time, you're going to find most people do not come in separate cars. So even if we were at max capacity, we're not expecting more than probably maybe 8 to 10 cars, because you're going to have people coming in as groups together, whether it be dates or just a group of friends coming out. And also, due to the hours that we're going to be running, most of the businesses in the complex will already be closed.
Okay. All right. That's
Madam
all
Chair.
Commissioner Perot?
Back to that parking question. So 8 to 10, how many spaces are dedicated to this particular unit, and are they shared with the photography studio?
Yes, they are.
Okay.
The parking spots are. For in that area, I am not sure. We can get back with you on that. I'm not sure between all of them. 10 parking spots? Okay, there we go. Somebody else does
There's
know.
10 dedicated spaces to that
Yes, ma'am.
unit.
Do you know if there's any overflow parking beyond just what they're showing here on the site plan?
In that area, not that I'm aware of. Is there any overflow parking?
Please, you need to come forward to the mic so
Sorry.
we can get it on the record.
Okay.
And please state your name and address for the record.
Michelle Marvin, 320 West Cub Street, Meridian, Idaho 83642.
Okay.
So most of the parking is just within that parking spot, but there is some parking along both, let's see, I'm not sure what the street is, but it's the one that's perpendicular or parallel to Victory Road, and then also that's perpendicular to Meridian. So just kind of on the outsides of this parking space, but the majority of the parking is within this large parking lot.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. And so we have Kelly, Casey, and Michelle signed, but you've just spoken and nobody else wishes to speak. Is there anybody else in the room who wishes to speak on this application? Okay. Okay, so at this time, could I get a motion to close the public hearing for item H-2017-0155, escape room?
So moved.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to close the public hearing on H-2017-0155. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I think this just sounds fun. You know, I'm thinking it's kind of all that shared parking and everything, but I think it's the same kind of setup, you know, you deal with just a little farther north, you know, with the curb and that kind of, you know, it's bar and it's all overflow and they all end up having to share those parking spots. I don't think it sounds like it'll be too intrusive.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Perot?
my guess is that a good majority of the time people will be there will be after business hours, or at least the larger groups will be after business hours, and probably won't conflict with the other professional offices that are in that facility.
I agree.
No, I would, Madam Chair.
Commissioner Yearsley?
I agree. You know, starting at 1 to 9 or, you know, their hours is not too bad, so I think would be okay. And so I'm in favor of it.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Holland?
I don't see any concerns either. It sounds like there's adequate parking nearby, and with the hours of operation, I don't see any concerns.
Great. With those comments, are we ready for a motion?
Absolutely, Madam Chair. After considering all staff, applicant, and public testimony, I move to approve file number H-2017-0155 as presented in the staff report for the hearing date of January 4th, 2018, with no modifications.
Second?
It has been moved and seconded to approve H-2017-0155. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations. At this time, we'd like to open the public hearing for H-2017-0156, Caven Ridge Estates. I apologize, is that Caven or Cavan?
I believe it's Cavan.
Cavan, sorry,
Madam Chair.
I apologize. We'll begin with the staff report.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the commission. The next applications before you are a request for a rezone, a preliminary plat, and there is also a development agreement modification, but it does not require commission action, only city council approval. This site consists of 14.42 acres of land. It's zoned R8 and it's located on the east side of South Meridian Road, State Highway 69, south of East Victory Road, and just south of the Reidenbach Canal. Adjacent land use and zoning to the north is multifamily residential and single-family residential uses zoned R15 and R4, respectively. To the east is South Standing Timber Way, a collector street, and single-family residential uses in Cavan Ridge Estates East, zoned R8. To the south is vacant undeveloped land zoned R8, and to the west is South Meridian Road, State Highway 69, agricultural properties zoned RUT in Ada County, and single-family residential uses zoned R8. This property was originally annexed back in 2006 and included a preliminary plat that has since expired. The proposed subdivision layout is very close to what was previously approved for this property. The comprehensive plan future land use map designation is medium density residential, which is 3 to 8 units per acre. The applicant requests council approval of an amendment to the existing development agreement, as I mentioned previously, to include an updated conceptual development plan as shown, which includes 20 more building lots than was previously proposed. Concept plan on your left is the existing plan that's in the development agreement. The plan on the right is the proposed concept plan. And as I said, this request does not require action from the commission. A rezone of 15.68 acres of land from the R8 to the R15 zoning district is proposed for the purpose of obtaining reduced side yard setbacks from 5 feet to 3 feet. The proposed street frontages and lot sizes are consistent with that required in the R8 district. A preliminary plat is proposed as shown that consists of 67 building lots for single-family residential detached homes, some of which are proposed to be patio homes, and 9 common lots on 14.42 acres of land. The minimum lot size is 4,448 square feet with an average lot size of 5,716 square feet. The subdivision is proposed to develop in 4 phases, as shown. Access is proposed via local streets from South Standing Timber Way. Direct lot access via Standing Timber and South Meridian Road, State Highway 69, is prohibited except for emergency access. A 35-foot wide landscape street buffer is required along South Meridian Road, an entryway corridor. Segments of the city's multi-use pathway system are required within the street buffer along Meridian Road and along the north boundary of the site adjacent to the Reidenbach Canal. And those pathways are shown here in the thicker line here. There is a segment of the city's multi-use pathway on the adjacent property to the north along Meridian Road, but there is an approximate 40-foot long section that is missing. The staff is recommending as a provision of the development agreement that the applicant construct this off-site improvement as a provision of the rezone. I'll just flip back here. So that would be in this section right here, if you can see where my pointer is. Total of 15.5% qualified open space and site amenities consisting of 2 segments of the city's multi-use pathway system and internal pathways are proposed in accord with UDC standards. This development will also be allowed to use the amenities in Cabin Ridge East to the east of this site across Standing Timber Way. Conceptual building elevations are proposed as shown. The applicant has stated that all of these homes will fit on 40-foot wide building footprints. There has been no written testimony submitted on this application. Staff is recommending approval with conditions. Staff will stand for any questions.
Any questions for staff?
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Rowe?
I noticed on the staff report in the preliminary plat section 4.3, there were several changes that staff had requested the applicant to make. And I'm wondering if any of those have been made or what kind of consideration we should be taking with these requested changes.
Chairman, Commissioner Pro, Commissioners, those are all covered in the conditions of approval in the staff report. So as long as you're in agreement with those, that's the requirements going forward.
Okay.
Staff has not received a response from the applicant, though, so they can address whether or not they're in agreement with those conditions.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay. Would the applicant like to come forward?
Good evening. I'm Wendy Shreve with JEB Engineers, and my business address is 250 South Beechwood in Boise, 83709. And for the most part, we're in agreement with the staff report. Sonia's been great to work with, and she always is. And I think we have a better product thanks to Sonia's attention to detail and working through things with us. I have a couple things I wanted to bring up, and I'll just sort of kind of brush over what we're applying for. This is a property with existing R8 zoning. We are applying for a rezone for R15 zoning. We meet all dimensional standards for the R8 zoning. This is, we're just requesting a reduced side yard setback because of the type of homes we're putting in. And this kind of relates to the DA modification we're requesting. Originally, this was going to be a traditional single-family development. We're going to be doing patio homes marketed towards, seniors, empty nesters, busy professionals. So those are going to be homes where they tend to be single-story, and it's a different footprint that's needed. And for some of those home builders, it's really advantageous to have that 3-foot setback. It gives you the ability to put more square footage on the lot. So that's where we're going in and requesting just that reduced side yard setback with the R15 zoning. We meet all dimensional standards and the density standards for the R8 zoning. And we are adjacent to some R15 zoning that's to the north. With our development agreement modification, there was a concept plan that was originally approved as a part of the existing development agreement. And Sonia went through and counted our lots, and we are adding lots from what was originally on that concept plan. We still meet the comprehensive plan designation for the area, still meet the R8 zoning density, but because we are proposing some of these smaller patio home lots, we are requesting to add some additional lots. And I think that will be discussed at council, but it kind of ties in with our reduced side yard setback that we're requesting in the R15. This will be a high-end, single-family subdivision. It's a different type of footprint and a different type of housing stock here for Meridian. And I think it's probably a good thing to add to the mix, to have homes that are marketed towards active seniors and professionals, and a little different from what you see in some of North Meridian. I think it's good to have this product mix out here in South Meridian. Two things I wanted to address we brought up for the staff report. So the first one, I don't know if you want to put a site plan up, Sonia, but where we're going to be putting, and I just sort of wanted to clarify this for the conditions, where we'll be putting in the noise attenuation. It'll be a combination of a berm and a wall along Meridian Road. We just wanted to clarify where exactly that's going to be located. There's a conflict. There's an existing property muscle down here. Sonia's pointing to it, where there's an existing access point that we can't move as an existing access point on Meridian Road, and we most likely will be using that as our emergency access. So we will not be able to do the berm or have the fence extend to that access point for the muscle property. And then to the north, I guess I wanted to clarify with Sonia, whether we needed to do the noise attenuation along lot 27. It's an open space lot. We're good with the berm. We'd prefer not to put the wall up there. But what do you think, Sonia?
Yeah. Good. Sonia, your mic's not on.
Excuse me. I believe the UDC requirement is for the sound attenuation wall adjacent to a residential development, I believe. So we can double check that, Wendy, but whatever the code is would probably be what applies. But
Chairman Kuchers, yeah, we will meet the code. If there was any flexibility where that's not a residential lot, we didn't think it made as much sense to have that wall in and the noise attenuation next to it's going to be an open space lot, but we will meet the code. Then I also wanted to address, and it wasn't, I don't think specifically spelled out in the conditions, but where staff is requesting we do the pathway extension to the north of the site, that's an off-site improvement. I always want to have the caveat, if approved by the neighboring property owner, because we don't have any control over that. So we need to make sure that neighboring property owner is in agreement, because we don't have jurisdiction over that property to the north for that pathway extension. Is there an existing easement, Sonia, that would make it for us to extend the pathway to the north?
Madam Chair, in response to the applicant's question, there is not an existing easement. We would have you include that as part of your pedestrian easement.
So that, Sonia, that would, or Chairman Sonia, so that would be as a part of, we would secure that easement from that neighboring property owner?
Yes, if it is on their property, I believe it's in the right-of-way in that area, so it'd probably be a license agreement with ITD.
Okay, and as long as the neighboring property owner is willing, we haven't met with them, so I assume it will be fine. But I wanted to have the caveat in there if neighboring property owner is willing.
Yes.
Okay. Perfect.
And in response to the applicant's earlier question about or comment about not doing a sound attenuation wall adjacent to the common area on lot 27, block 1. Staff would be okay with just doing the berm requirement in that area and not the wall.
Okay.
The berm is required to be 10 foot high, measured from the adjacent center line, but yes. If the commission wishes to approve that, I would ask that you make a modification to the staff report.
So, Chairman Commissioners, I guess if we could have the option, I don't know if in that area if we could, because we're going to be doing a 4-foot berm, 6-foot wall on the remainder of that area. So I don't know if we could fit in a 10-foot tall berm in that area. But we're going to have it combined. It would be 6'4" plus 4 foot.
You'll just have to meet the code requirements.
Okay, we'll meet the code requirements.
The wall, we can not require that on that piece, but otherwise it has to meet code requirements.
Okay.
Well, and I appreciate the conversation going back and forth here. I know this was a tight week with the holidays.
It was.
Getting
I
the staff report
apologize.
just came out last night at 5, so we'll
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman Commissioners, for,
Yeah,
Tanya and I,
irregular.
we've talked a lot,
Yeah.
but we didn't talk about that yet. So I just
Okay.
wanted to.
We'll get it nailed down.
Okay, okay.
right.
Yeah, we will definitely meet code for that.
Okay. Any other questions for the applicant?
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Yearsley?
Block 27 is an open space lot. What are you anticipating at that lot to be? Because this really doesn't have great access except through a common driveway, which, so I'm just kind of curious what your thoughts on access and how that's supposed to be handled.
So Chairman Commissioners, that will also, that'll be accessible through, we think, from Meridian Road. It serves a function as sort of a drainage lot. We'll, of course, meet Meridian standards where it won't look like it's a drainage facility, but that's kind of the key reason for that being there in that location, was to take drainage for that part of the site. It will be, I guess, a great amenity for those lots 25, 26, and 28 up there, but it is an unusual lot. It can be accessed off Meridian Road and through that common drive. And the common drive is also essential in case we need to get in and do maintenance on those drainage facilities. We'll be able to do it through that common drive. But it's a critical location over there.
Please don't speak from back there. They can't get you on the record from back there.
So Chairman Commissioners, I don't know if Brady Lasher wants to go. Brady's part of the development team for this
Great.
project.
We just want to get his comments on the mic.
He was commenting it's also accessible from the Reidenbach Canal. We'll be putting in a pathway, a 10-foot multi-use pathway along the Reidenbach Canal, and that runs along the northern edge of that open space lot.
So if the grandkids need to go play somewhere, they can run down the pathway and access that open space there.
Correct.
Okay. And I did want to make note, you said I think I read the density is still just a hair under 5 units per acre. So the density is still really in that R8 zone. It's just those lot setbacks that you're after the R15.
And I think a number of projects have come through where they've requested the same side yard setback, and sometimes that's sort of you need to look at a code change when you have a lot of people coming in and requesting a very specific dimensional or rezone for dimensional standard.
Okay.
But it's perfectly suited to patio home developments to have that reduced side yard setback. We would, of course, work with the fire department and building department on the type of eaves that could extend in or not extend into that reduced side yard setback.
Any other questions for the applicant?
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Perot?
I'm sorry, I have another clarifying question about that lot 27. So you said that, it's what it sounds like is that the homeowners would need to go through the pathway, which is lot 16, and walk across the canal path to get to lot 27 because they won't be coming through any kind of access on the common drive, lot 26.
Chairman Commissioners, it will be accessible both from Meridian Road and through the micropath lot 16 and that pathway along the Reidenbach Canal.
And that will primarily be used as a drainage area, but it will be grassed, I assume?
Yes, it'll have grass and landscaping, but it does need to be used for drainage. We need it in that area.
So then, are you considering lot 16, block 3, to be the primary, usable open space for the homeowners?
Chairman Commissioners, that will be an open space area. I mean, I think for kids playing kickball, lot 27 is probably better for active open space for kids, as long as you have parents out there. But this is immediately adjacent to Cabin Ridge East. They're part of the same HOA, and they'll be using their open space and facilities.
And what kind of amenities or open space do they have in Cabin Ridge East?
In Cabin Ridge East, I think I'll have Brady jump up here and talk about that, but it's pool and clubhouse. Yeah.
And just please state your name and address for the record.
Brady Lasher. My address is 3234 North Maplestone Avenue, Meridian 83646. So East we have a 3-acre park in East, and it's got a pool, it's got a pool house. We got walking paths all throughout as well. So yeah, we'll be able to have access. Everybody on West will be able to access that as well.
And there are walking paths from west to east.
Yeah,
across standing timber.
Yeah, the Reidenbach Canal goes across there, and we'll have that will connect basically both the projects together. So.
Okay.
And Cavan Ridge East, Chairman Commissioners, is currently under construction. Final plat's been approved, so it will be at build out by the time Cavan Ridge West starts construction.
How many phases of east have been completed? Is it?
One is complete, and 2 and 3. Well, yeah, phase. I guess it's the center one, the big blue one, has been complete. The yellow and then the dark green one are being completed right now. They should be finished up in about March.
And Clubhouse and Pool are phase 1.
Phase
Yeah.
1? Okay.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Yearsley.
So, and it may be a moot point, but it's showing at phase 4 that you're using a temporary turnaround and easement on through somebody else's property, or is that your property as well? I'm just wanting to make sure that that's acceptable to the adjacent property owners to have a turnaround on their facility.
So, Chairman Commissioners, there are actually a couple ways to deal with the emergency access once we get to phase 4. We're in conversation with Muscle. We have approval, tentative approval through ITD to use emergency access from 2 Meridian Road through the Muscle property, and then we have an alternative access, which would be to work with that neighboring property owner. So we've basically secured both options just to keep them both, okay, depending on how the development happens. But we do have tentative approval from ITD for the Meridian Road emergency access.
Okay.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks.
At this time, we'll open to public testimony, and I believe Wendy's already spoken. Is there anyone else here that would like to speak on this application? Okay. There being no testimony, and I believe we've asked the applicant all questions, could I get a motion to close the public hearing on item H-2017-0156?
So moved.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to close the hearing on H-2017-0156. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Would anyone like to start and think out loud? I think it looks like an interesting product. And although they've added lots, they are still within, obviously, that R8 zone. It's just the R15 that they're asking to add. And I think having the accessibility and being part of the HOA to the next property to have all those amenities with those homes looks nice.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Yearsley.
I'm kind of torn.
Okay.
With the offset requirements that we have, it'll be a sea of homes. There's really no break, and that's the concern that I do have with that, especially to the residents to the north, because I think they sit a little higher than everybody else. That it will look like one big long continuous home, and so I'm, because of that, and it's a pretty big change from what they had initially planned. I'm not quite sure how I'm feeling on this one yet, so
Okay.
I'd be curious to what others think.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Perot.
I am in some agreement with Commissioner Yearsley. I'd like to see a little break, especially on that north side. And I'm not a big fan of how they've set up the common areas. I realize that there's might be access to the other parts of the neighborhood, the other parts of the east side. However, this is a different product than what is being built on the east side, and probably different needs, different uses for those homeowners. And so I think, as we've talked about in the past, using a common area as drainage and then still trying to say that, you know, that it's going to be used for recreational space. I think we've run into challenges with that or concerns about that as a commission. I personally would like to see one of these lots on the north side be common area space as well, even though they technically meet the minimum requirements. Seems like that would make sense to me.
Okay. No, we've closed the public hearing, sorry.
I have a tendency to agree. Did you have a comment, or are you gonna? Okay.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Yeah, I would normally say, I would like to see at least that common area kind of receive the same berming and noise reduction, because that doesn't do much good. I mean, to have that all open for that lot 28 and 25 and 24, they're going to get that noise coming around that corner. But I would normally be opposed to that lack of open space if it weren't for that they were so close to the pool and the clubhouse and all the other things. But it is a long road of houses, you're right.
Well, and I think with that too, and I don't know, maybe you can address our the marketability of these. Is that typically who buys these? Because really there's no yard in this facility, so they're going to need additional space for open space, or so you're putting a huge demand on what was previously approved and done, and you know, you're adding 20 additional lots on top of that. And so I would think that I would almost consider the two lots, 24 and 25, be considered part of that open space almost, and make that a little bit bigger.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Perot.
My guess, and we didn't ask the applicant this, my guess is that there will be some sort of small strip of grass behind the homes within there, and that they will be fenced and separated from each other based on if it's similar to other patio home projects in Meridian. So they may have a small area of their own in the back that they would use. But my, you know, if we are going to consider the amenities and open space in the other part of the subdivision on the east side, then, you know, do we have adequate parking for these additional, you know, if they're going to be going, does that development have adequate parking to supply the amenities to this section? You know, is that going to be concern of are the homeowners in the east side aware that the homeowners in the west side are going to be using those facilities? So I'd like to see the common areas changed, adjusted, whether that's, you know, opening up 24 and 25 or putting in another area somewhere in the middle. Again, just a preference based on what we've seen in the past.
So are you recommending continuing and having them come back with something else, or?
You know, I struggle with the R15 zoning from a 5 to a 3. That's a 3-foot setback. That's really close.
It's tiny.
I don't know if I don't think that fits. I understand that this is supposed to be a patio home type situation, but given where it sits with most everything else,
It's 3 feet.
on each side, so you're twice that. So I mean, that's your homes are like, you could reach out and shake hands with your neighbor. And for this type of facility, I'm not sure if I like the zoning. I don't think it's an appropriate zone to have an R15 zoning with this.
Patio homes.
For the patio homes, yeah.
Right.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Holland.
do we have an idea of how much open space was eliminated between the first original proposal and this current one that we're looking at?
Sonia, do we have that? Yeah. Do we remember which of those lots were open space, Sonia? They were just bigger lots, weren't they? Yeah.
Madam Chair, no, I do not. I believe that the concept plan on the left there reflected what was originally approved with the Kavanaugh subdivision back in '06. The applicant did mention to me that they would be willing to reduce their request basically for their R15 zoning to half of the property.
Say that again.
Difference. Right now, they're requesting a rezone for all of the property to R15. They said they would be amenable to only doing approximately half of the property with R15, if that makes a difference.
So I'm guessing they're wanting to keep that strip of little ones.
Well, my opinion is if we do that, it would
Yeah.
be in front of the apartments and not in front of the homes.
Yeah.
Is what I would think. You'd end up on like the back phase.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the biggest thing with the open space is we're going from a medium-sized lot with more yard to a very small lot with very little yard, and that's the concern that I have.
Yeah, you're looking at going with these lots where all of that open space there on the south was part of somebody's fenced yard.
Yeah.
So you've just got.
Madam Chair, if I may interrupt, if it comes down to the commission voting to deny the plat based on the rezone request, the applicant is willing to withdraw the request for a rezone to R15. As is, the lots comply with the R8 standards.
Madam Chair, I also have the same concerns as Commissioner Yearsley regarding those 3-foot setbacks. I don't know what the regulations are requiring or regarding, you know, the fire department and that kind of thing. But I'm in real estate. I haven't seen really, I can't think of off the top of my head any other areas where even the patio homes are set that close together. There may be. I don't know if the staff has an example of a development where that exists.
Madam Chair, members of the commission, I do have plenty of examples for you. One's right off of South Meridian Road called Sovie subdivision. It's right by, there's an elementary school behind it, and that developer built everything to that 3-foot setback. And typically with those style of developments, their lots were a lot narrower than these. I'll always go on the record and say that. They were only 38-foot wide lots, where these are still 50, which is larger than what you can get in an R8 zoning district. But what that developer did is they built skinnier homes, so they went vertical. But what they also did is also granted the property owner to the left or right an easement to use the other 3 feet, so that person lives to the right or the left and gets a little wider side yard. That's kind of the intent, or what I've seen with my experience with the reduced setbacks. But those homes do not have eaves. So when they come into the building department, there's a couple ways you can get around it. One, those eaves have to be fire rated, meaning they have to meet building code standards in order to get eaves, which adds cost to construction. So in that particular case, that developer probably found that out and said, we're not going to do eaves, and decided to build these tall, skinny homes without any eaves. Now, I can tell you, they don't look the best, from my professional opinion, and there's roughly 4 of those developments occurring right now, but they have been very successful. They seem to be selling those homes, these applicants, they are proposing to do the fire-rated eaves, as she testified here this evening. But just for your information, we do have 3 or 4 of those developments occurring now, with taking advantage of those 3-foot setbacks. But again, it's meant to dedicate that additional 3 feet to your neighbor so they can use it as a side yard. I don't believe that was the proposal by this applicant.
Sonia, did I hear you say they're really on 5-foot setbacks anyway? Did I hear that right? That they're already currently.
Madam Chair, what I said was that the current lot areas, lot sizes, and street frontage dimensions, everything complies with the UDC standards for the R8 district. The only reason they were requesting R15 is for some of the lots to have a 3-foot setback. They said that they're okay with removing that rezone request if it's a deal breaker with the plat.
Okay. they could still use the current plat and keep an R8?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it complies with our dimensional standards.
Thoughts? Let me back up. I live next door to Sobe, and it looks horrible. The no eaves, and the lots are really close together, and it is just a sea of homes. It is not a great looking subdivision. It is selling because it is actually probably lower than most of the other homes around the neighborhood. So people wanting to live in the area, that can't afford to can live there. And the other way they got around it is they ended up doing adjoined homes where they have the two homes split, so to make it look a little bit better. And again, I don't know if that's an appropriate use in this subdivision as well. I don't know. I think I would be amenable to approve it without the R15 zone.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was leaning after staff's comments, that I think just to keep things clean and neat, we leave off the R15, but the plat itself and the product, I think, with the 5-foot setbacks is probably a better solution than having, dividing it up and saying here and there.
And I guess for question to council, where this is all together, how do we, I guess, do we make that recommendation and put the condition that it not be rezoned? Is that how we make that motion? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
Madam Chair, I'd recommend. Madam Chair, I'd recommend with the city attorney's agreement that either the applicant officially withdraw the request for a rezone, or you make an official recommendation on that
Okay.
rezone request.
Okay. Okay. So we will come
So
back
if
to
the
that
applicant, I guess the question is, the applicant officially withdraws that rezone request, do we have to continue it for them to make that request, or? Okay.
I believe, Madam Chair, that you need to reopen the public hearing and have them officially withdraw their application
Okay.
and then close the public hearing and make your recommendation.
Okay. So before we do that, let's clear up the other issue the applicant had, in case we have questions for them on this, on that berm for the common lot. You bring that plat back up. On the lot 27 out there, they're wanting to just have the berm and not the wall. What, did we find out what the code is on that?
Madam Chair, the code says that a berm or a berm and wall combination, it has to be
10 foot.
10 feet from the center line of the adjacent street tall.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I agree. I think it needs to be a berm and a wall. It needs to meet the code.
Yeah.
And a 4-foot berm is not appropriate, especially for kids trying to play there. You get a better buffer for the Meridian Road, especially how busy it is, and it also.
I think it would just look odd.
Yeah. So nope, I agree.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I apologize. Perhaps I missed the applicant's reasoning to not want to do that.
Because it wasn't behind any homes.
Because what?
Yeah.
It wasn't adjacent to any homes.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so
Okay.
they're not,
Okay.
technically, they're not protecting any noise from there, which is the
I
reason for the
understand.
code, but I just think to aesthetically, and I think it would help block out the noise for all those homes right there in that corner.
Yes.
I agree.
Okay. All right, then at this time, could I get a motion to reopen the public hearing on item H-2017-0156? Cabin Ridge.
So moved.
Second?
It has been moved and seconded to reopen the public hearing on H-2017-0156. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Would the applicant like to come forward?
Chairman, Commissioners, Wendy Shreve again. So we will formally withdraw our request for the R15 zoning, and we'll try it again on another project. But thank you for your consideration. And are there any additional questions while I'm up here?
Any additional questions while we're
Madam
open?
Chair.
Commissioner Perot?
So you'll be able to keep the plat the same. That just means
Yes.
that the homes are going to have to be a little narrower. Is that the idea?
We will, we'll have 5-foot
comply
setbacks.
with the
And
5-foot setback.
these are not particularly narrow lots. We just thought with
Right.
some of the single story, we could have more
Right.
square footage
Okay.
with the reduced setback. So we're
Okay.
going to formally withdraw the R-15. Thank you.
Thank you. So at this time, could I get a motion to close the public hearing?
So,
Okay.
do we need to actually have any public testimony? As we reopen that, and, or do we?
Or do we just have public testimony on that issue? Or?
Just on that issue.
Okay. Is there anyone that wishes to speak on the issue of removing the R-15 zone? Forget it. Okay. So at this time, could I get a motion to close the public hearing for item H-2017-0156?
Madam Chair, so moved. Sorry.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to close the public hearing on H-2017-0156. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, so we are taking off the MDA. Okay, so we want to add. Sonia, did you say it was already in the staff report about that additional pathway?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Okay, but we want to add, I think that makes sense to add as long as the other property owner approves.
Sure.
I mean, okay.
You want to try that, or do you want me to do this one?
Go ahead.
All right. Madam Chair,
Commissioner Yearsley.
after considering all staff, applicant, and public testimony, I move to recommend approval to the City Council of file number H-2017-056 as presented in the staff report for the hearing date of January 4th, 2018, with the following modifications: that the applicant has agreed to withdraw the R-15 zone, and that the condition for the 40-foot pathway to the north have the condition added that based on adding, how do I always want to say it, upon approval of the adjacent property owner.
Madam Chair, do we need to address the berm?
That's why I was just reading how, I
That's
think
already-
the staff report already accurately describes what needs to be done, yeah. So we just need a second.
I'll second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve file number H-2017-0156, Cabin Ridge Estates West, with modifications. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations. Okay, so next on the agenda is to open the public hearing for item H-2017-0153, Winco Wells subdivision.
Madam Chair, members of the commission, the next application before you is a request for a preliminary plat. This site consists of 18.75 acres of land. It's zone CG, located at 2600 East Overland Road on the north side of Overland Road, west of South Eagle Road. Adjacent land use and zoning to the north is Interstate 84 and office uses zoned LO. To the east is vacant undeveloped property, zone CG. To the south is East Overland Road and various commercial uses, zone CG. And to the west are various commercial uses and an animal care facility, zone CG. This property was annexed back in 1994 as part of a larger 167-acre area that included the property to the east, along with the interchange and the St. Luke's property to the northeast. It was part of their annexation path for St. Luke's. The comprehensive plan future land use map designation is mixed use regional. The applicant is requesting approval of a preliminary plat consisting of 7 building lots on 18.75 acres of land in the CG zoning district. The subdivision is proposed to develop in one phase. The 13-acre lot on the north end of the site is for the proposed Winco Foods grocery store. No uses are proposed at this time on the other 6 southern lots. With development of the subdivision, East Cinema Drive is required to be extended from the west to the east boundary of the site, and Wells Avenue is required to be extended from Overland Road along the east boundary of the site to Cinema Drive. Access will be taken from the proposed local streets. Direct lot access via Overland Road is prohibited. A cross-access ingress-egress easement is required to be provided between all of the lots south of Cinema Drive. A 25-foot wide street buffer is required along Overland Road. A 50-foot wide buffer is required along Interstate 84, and 10-foot wide street buffers are required along Wells and Cinema, landscaped in accord with UDC standards. Sidewalks are required along all streets, detached sidewalks being required along Overland Road. Building elevations were submitted for the Winco store, consisting primarily of split-face CMU in 2 different colors and vertical and horizontal metal wall panels with smooth CMU banding. All buildings are required to comply with the design standards in the Architectural Standards Manual. No written testimony has been received on this application. Staff is recommending approval with the conditions in the staff report. Staff will stand for any questions.
Any questions for staff? Would the applicant like to come forward?
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the commission. I'm Dan Zimmerman, Tate & Associates, 707 North 27th Street in Boise. We have reviewed and agree with the conditions of approval, so we're here to answer any questions.
Any questions for the applicant?
Well, except for the one, how fast are you going to get it built? We're wanting that one to be built.
That's going to coincide with the North Chin and Linder site.
Oh. Okay. Commissioner Perot.
So, there was some. My apologies, Madam Chair.
Commissioner Perot.
There was some mention in the staff report regarding the area to the south of Cinema Drive and what was going to happen with those lots, and a preference to have some conceptual plan on that. Has the developer or the applicant done that, or do they have any idea of what's going to happen?
No, right now there are no plans for those lots yet.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, and I don't have anybody signed up to testify for this application, but is there anyone in the room who wishes to do so at this time? Okay. There being no other questions for the applicant, I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing for item H-2017-0153.
So moved.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to close the public hearing for H-2017-0153, Winco Wells. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I think it's pretty straightforward. Looks pretty identical layout to the one that's existing already, with a little more parking on the side. I would just have a question. Sonia, you said about the exterior elevation. Did we have pictures of that? I forgot in the, yeah, just the basic. Okay.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Perot?
do we know what that intersection of Wells and Overland, how the traffic's going to flow there?
I'm not sure. Sonia, is that a stoplight there? Or it's a right out only?
It's actually for a future stoplight. So
Future stoplight, yeah.
it's. I think even the poles are there. They just don't have the mast arms up for the stoplight. So
Okay.
it is planned for a stoplight.
Yeah.
That's what I was hoping you would say.
I don't have any issues with it either. We've seen the sign up there for a year and a half now. Come on. So we're excited for it to come in there, and I
Yeah.
think it's a good location. It's on a good arterial street, good access.
Yeah. And I think all the issues that we had with some others, I mean, this is the receiving area and everything faces the interstate, so this
Yeah.
is an ideal location for something like this. Anybody like to make a motion then? There being no other discussion.
Madam Chair, after considering all staff, applicant, and public testimony, I move to recommend approval to City Council of file number H-2017-0153 as presented in the staff report for the hearing date of January 4th, 2018, with no modifications.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve H-2017-0153 Winco Wells. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations. Okay, so the next item that has been added to our agenda, we have Mr. Parsons with a presentation on the modifications to the accessory use permit checklist by the Planning Division.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the commission.
We lost our audience.
They don't want to hear about boring changes to our checklist. But thank you for allowing me to come and present this to you this evening. I know it was a last-minute ad, but the reason for it is the UDC requires that the commission approve substance changes to our checklist. If you recall, approximately a year ago, I brought forth some UDC text changes before you. As part of those changes, there were some modifications to our home occupation standards. Well, the commission, at the time that was presented to you, you felt comfortable with the recommendations of staff. However, when it got to council, it got roadblocked by some of our residents that live in Meridian and operate home-based businesses. And so staff had to go back to the drawing board and recreate and draft some new provisions that everyone could agree to. We actually went back and created a focus group with some of the residents that came and testified at the city council meeting about the changes that we were proposing. Well, with that effort, we believe we got all of those standards in place to move forward, everyone in agreement. But in order to do that, our home occupation standards now are kind of a three-tiered approach. So we have accessory use permit for daycares, home daycares, and then we're going to have accessory use permit home occupations for when you don't have customers or clients, and then we're going to have home occupations for lessons of students with 7 students or fewer. And so in order to make sure that we can administer these correctly, we're going to create we're going to modify one checklist and create 2 new ones. And that's what these changes are before you this evening. I've kind of underlined and struck through the proposed changes that I have before you this evening. And again, it's really to mimic what has been approved by our city council to the home occupation standards and also to our daycare standards. And again, those are highlighted here. And so this evening, staff is recommending that you review this document, and we request that you review not only the revisions to the existing checklist, but also approve the 2 new ones. So I'll give you a few minutes to kind of look over the strikeout underlying changes, and then I'll stand for any questions you may have.
Bill, I have a question. On the daycare. Oh, sorry. It was on. I was just talking too soft, I guess. Sorry. On the daycare, am I reading that right? It says basically all those additional requirements were scratched out, meaning they don't have to tell us what the total number of proposed children is, employees, and all that kind of stuff when they come for. I know we've had a couple of ones that have come before us for conditional use permit, and it just says that the applicant shall not exceed the maximum number of clients. I know we had a couple of them where we kind of restricted them based on what they were willing and not willing to do as far as accommodating their structure.
Madam Chairman, members of the commission, this particular, the one that's labeled accessory use daycare, this is the checklist that we use for both currently.
Okay.
So what I've done here is I've struck out that information and I've actually reorganized it up at the top under the narrative to tell. If you look under the second bullet point under narrative, the second item required with on the checklist.
Okay.
It says narrative fully describing the proposed
Okay.
request and include. So I've just basically reorganized that a little
Reorganized
bit
it, okay.
and put it in
Yep.
there so that
Okay.
we get it in front of the applicant sooner rather than later. Because now this is becoming its standalone checklist rather than being combined as it currently is today.
I may be a little slow on the uptake, so apologize. The first one, excuse me, is the first one what was required initially for everything, and then you've just modified this other one, bottom ones? Is that what I'm seeing? Because the first checklist that you have doesn't have any instructions behind it. And so I wasn't quite sure, because you have the home occupation accessory provision, lessons, or instructions, which is just basically a quick checklist, but it doesn't have like any verbiage like the other two behind it associated with it. Is that the intent, or is that?
Madam Chairman, members of the commission, the two checklists after the memo
Okay.
coincide with the standards for home occupation accessory use statement of compliance. So that document, it's actually 2 pages, and it's labeled as such, goes with both of those checklist items. And you'll note that if you look at both of those checklists, you'll note that there's a underlined change, or it says right above the fee. On the checklist, it says standards for home occupation, statement of compliance.
Yep.
That's what they have to provide to us, that's signed.
Okay.
And these statements of compliance have been modified to reflect the code changes that the council adopted back in December
Okay.
last year.
Madam Chair.
Mr. Burrow?
So the main difference between these two checklists is one requires a neighborhood meeting and one doesn't.
Madam Chair, members of the commission, 2 will require a neighborhood meeting and 1 doesn't.
Yeah. Okay.
That is correct. So the daycare, in-home daycare requires a neighborhood meeting. And then also, if you have lessons,
Okay.
provisions for lessons or instruction, then yes, that one also requires to follow the same process. There's 2 different fees associated with those 2.
So in an accessory use where somebody doesn't have customers, clients involved with their business, then the neighborhood meeting wouldn't be required, basically.
Not, Madam Chair, members of the commission, it's not tailored to customers and clients anymore. We've removed that.
Okay.
That's where this tiered approach comes from. What it comes down to is whether or not the impact you have on the neighborhood, I guess,
Okay.
is the best way to say it. If it's low impact, you're just using it as an office. If you go to the statement of compliance and you look at item B here, and it talks about the allowed uses that you can do as an approved accessory use or home occupation accessory use. If you meet those standards, you don't do the neighborhood meeting. And some of those, not all of them. Again, if it's arts and lessons, and again, you're training or teaching someone yoga in your home or personal training or whatever the case may be, yes, you're teaching someone's coming to your home, then yes, you don't call it customers and clients anymore. But if someone comes to your home and gets instructions or lessons as part of the allowed home occupations, then yes, that would require that neighborhood meeting.
Okay.
Would somebody like to make a motion? Or do we need to do that?
Yep.
Yeah, just motion to approve.
Madam Chair, I move
Commissioners.
we recommend approval of the revisions to the accessory use application checklist to City Council. Is that correct, or do we just approve it?
approve, yep.
Okay, then I move we approve
Presented.
Yep.
the checklist
City Council's already had it, I think.
for the hearing date of January 4th, 2018.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve the modifications to the accessory use permit checklist by the Planning Division. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, one more item. Election of officers for 2018. We need a chair and a vice chair.
Well, you
I make
know,
a motion that Rhonda McCarville remain the chairperson of the Meridian Planning and Zoning Commission.
Oh, I was thinking Ryan, he was the vice chair, so he
Yeah.
should move up to chair personally.
Can we actually vote him in without his input?
Hey,
I don't know, I don't know if he wants it,
I don't-
just time-wise.
I think
If
he has
yeah.
some concerns about his schedule.
Yeah.
And I guess, given that 3 of the 6, 7 of us are gone, would it be better to move this to next time when more people would be here to have a better discussion? Or do we need to make that decision today?
Typically, it's supposed to be done at your first regular meeting of the new year, but I think it's within your purview to postpone it, hoping to have, full body at the next meeting. You may not, though. There is a motion pending
Oh, there is. Sorry.
to be dealt with.
Is there a second, or are we moving forward with a lack of second?
So I have a question. Does you mind being the chair again for another year?
I don't mind. I have the time. I think I probably have the least demanding job of anybody up here. So, if that's the only issue why nobody else seems to want it, I would do it again. That's fine. But I'm also, if there's somebody else that's wanting to do it, I'm totally open to that as well. So,
I think that you are excellent at it, and that's the primary reason I made the motion.
I would second that emotion if you're
right.
willing to do it for another year.
Yeah.
I just like to try to give opportunities to those
Absolutely.
who might want it.
that was my concern as well. But
But I will make a motion for that.
all right. So it has been moved and seconded that Rhonda McCarville be chairman for 2018. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
So I think
All right.
I think Jessica might be a good vice.
I moved that Jessica Perot be named vice chair.
I should have stayed home sick tonight.
I think she would be an excellent chair in waiting. And I have 2 meetings this year that I know I will not be around, so you'll have a little training time.
I just need your nice little instructional sheet
I
that
will
you have.
be glad to pass that
Pass the
on.
baton.
Are you willing?
I am willing.
All right. I will second that motion.
All right. It has been moved and seconded that Jessica Perot be named vice chair for the 2018 Planning and Zoning Commission. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Madam Chair.
One more.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that we adjourn the January 4th meeting of 2018. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.